What is up, fans of Grapplers Talk? This is Dave coming at you with another episode each and every week. Thank you to the fans for downloading and tuning into the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate all the love and support out there. If you guys have the time, go check out my friends over at Spar Bar Soap. Give them a like and follow. Also, use our promo code Grapplers Talk for 10% off of your order over there. They have some great products, great scents out there with their soaps. And not only that, it helps for after training, before training. It's some of the best product on the market. So go check them out, Spar Bar Soap on Instagram. Also, thank you to our partners over at Butterfly X. Truly, they're putting out some amazing rash guards and gis and products. But also, if you need help as an academy owner to get some of the better rash guards on the planet, you want a reliable product that you can sell your team, go check them out. Inquire about getting some Academy merch made through my buddies at Butterfly X. Also, use promo code Grapplers Talk 10. You'll get 10% off of your order over there.
Nice.
But thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm excited for this one. I got to meet this gentleman just last week at a local jiu-jitsu competition, but I've been wanting to talk to him for quite some time. He is the head instructor owner over at Sabre Jiu-jitsu. None other than Bryant, man. How you doing, brother?
Good, sir. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, and great to meet you. Glad we linked up and it all worked out.
Yeah, man. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be a part of it. I know, time is very valuable, and I just want to let you know I appreciate it. But I want to introduce you to the fans. You got a good thing going over at Sabre,
Thank
and
you.
I just want to find out your grassroots on how you got started in jiu-jitsu. I know we got to share a little bit before the show, but just share with the fans how you got involved.
Sure. So I was a wrestler by nature. Grew up wrestling my whole life, and then was in college in about '95. And some of my friends from my wrestling club, they were like, "Hey, they're doing this Gracie Jiu-Jitsu thing down at the big gym at UH. Let's go down and check it out." I was like, "Sure." So we went down there, and it was just a romp house. It was like a ton of white belts in a big room that was hot, and everybody's wearing ugly gis, and you can hardly hear Professor Helson talk. And it was just like, all right, well, that's that. I didn't think much of it. Didn't think it was nothing but ugly wrestling. And then I became friends with one of his purple belts, who was a security guard on campus. And he already had a crew of guys that he was doing privates with. And he was like, "Hey, man, I'll work with you." I was like, "Sweet, let's do it." So that was cool. Did that for a little while. Moved back here to California, finished up at St. Mary's, and got away from the mats a little bit and became a meathead bodybuilder for many years. It was one of those things. My brother was one, so I like follow suit. I loved working out. Been working out my whole life, so it was nice to stop running and actually grow a little bit. So I always tell people, I'm like, I've been the same height since eighth grade, simply because of weight cutting. So
Yeah. Wrestlers are always losing weight, not gaining weight,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So it was nice to grow, but and then I stepped away from all that at about '01, and got back into wrestling. Went back to my wrestling club, and was coaching at De La Salle High School where I went, and coaching at CYC Wrestling Club. And that's where I met one of my now best friend. He was a wrestler for SF States, and he just starting his MMA career. And he's like, "Hey, man, a bunch of us are training down at the local Gracie gym. You should come down and train." I was like, "Ah, cool, sure, why not?" So I remember going down there for the first time. Didn't know nothing but how to wrestle, so that's what I'm gonna stick to. But especially walking into that kind of situation, it was clearly fighter training, fighter practice, where I'm just kind of like, okay. Unlike today, when a new person walks into a gym and you learn how to bow and not wear shoes off the mat, and like all all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and how to hip escape and tie your belt. But like, nah, that wasn't my first day.
Yeah.
It was more like survive. Especially looking back, I love telling this story because I wouldn't change my start and my journey for anything. Like learning and being around training with guys like Gil Castillo, Gilbert Melendez, Jake Shields, Dave Terrell, and of course the Diaz brothers. They were all in the room in my very first day of training. So that was my first exposure, and
Yeah.
it was just a different time. I was also a brand new cop right around then, so it was like learn how to survive, learn how to fight. I knew how to wrestle, but how to actually submit dudes and do all that stuff. And So that approach, especially being immersed into the MMA style of training, it was different. It was different. So I learned how to stop punches when you're on the ground playing guard. How to get up when someone's trying to, smash you up against a cage or a wall. So wall walking and all that
Yeah.
that was just those were my first like lessons. And like, the one I always joke about is like, I didn't learn how to hip escape. I learned how to get out of the mount and get to a heel hook much faster. So yeah, but that was my first real immersion into the art and the sport, and I got hooked quick, man. It was
Yeah.
just one of those things where I was like, wow, cool. It was my new outlet. So
Yeah. So going from there, obviously, the years happened. That was a long time ago. How did Saber become to be born? How did you start it? What was
mm.
the original thought behind it?
Well, so I got my black belts in about 9 years. I got it in 2012. And at the time, I got out of law enforcement and I was going on my fallback career, which is personal training and teaching, So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to, teach classes, do private lessons and do whatever until I figure out what I want to do. Because law enforcement to me was just wasn't working for me anymore.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, hey, maybe you should open your own school. I was like, that wasn't ever a goal. I'm not a business guy. I'm a poli sci major that was a cop. That's all I know how to do and train. That's all I
Yeah.
did. Like I couldn't sell you a $1 bill if I tried to. So, it's just one of those things where I was like, okay, and it worked out at the right time because old teammate of mine, matter of fact, he was on the very first UFC fighter show, Chris Sanford. Chris was training at a team that was it was a Hickson affiliate, a small little team, and they were closing their shop, and it was one of those things where I was like, oh, cool, right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But that was like the big one that hit me in 2014. I first got my first academy. I take that back. Sorry, I got my first academy open in 2014. It was a small little 800 square feet spot, subleasing out of my buddy's CrossFit gym. And at the time, it was like, oh man, this is cool. Just let's see how this goes. And
Yeah.
that was like the thought process. And I never forget that because it was like, oh God, I hope somebody walks through the door.
Yeah.
Man, it was scary. It was scary. It was a chance. I wasn't that kind of person growing up. And that's not what my dad taught me. My dad was like, you need a 401k and you need these things. I was like, "Ugh." So, but it was really cool because after a year I had 100 students and I couldn't complain. And we outgrew that spot and got into our another spot, which was about 1,500 square feet. We were subleasing out of a different CrossFit gym. At the end of the second year, we had 200 students. So I was like, whew, we need to get out of here now. And again, back to my buddy Chris Sanford, he's like, hey, these guys that have this little spot, they're trying to sell and go back to Brazil. You can do a buyout, and you can take over the lease, and you'll have mats. It's already set up, it's done. So I never forget. We went down there, me and a bunch of my students, and we eyeballed the place, and I signed the papers, and that was it, man. It was so cool. It was like literally a little eggshell of a place, and it had nothing but mats, 3,000 square feet with just mats.
Yeah.
So, when we kind of put our own little, let's make it home. One of the funny stories is like if you go to my academy, I have this big section of bleachers, and that's what I always wanted. And I was like, all right, if I'm gonna have my own place, I want people to feel like they're at a tournament, you
Yeah.
know. So I found this huge set of bleachers out in like San Mateo, and I told my guys like, hey man, I'm gonna go buy this. And like I saw the picture, and the dude was selling it for like $300. I was like, holy shit, because I had originally looked up and like schools were selling their bleachers for like $3,000 and up,
Oh
and
yeah.
it was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's wild. And so I got on Craigslist, saw this dude, hit up the ad. He's like, "Yeah, come and get it." And cool. Went to this guy's house. Me and my buddies, we rented a flatbed U-Haul, and I remember we got out there and it was like a mansion. And we were like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" Like he's like, "Yeah, this is where me and my friends we do pickup games." We're like, Okay, like you tell me about a pickup game of basketball, it's just me and a couple buddies and we're just shooting around. But like this dude was real. Like
Yeah.
they had a barbecue, they had the bleachers, and he's like, "There it is, yours, $300." I was like, "Fuck yeah!" So
Yeah.
we grabbed it, and I remember it was like literally sticking out the back, and we had the little flagpole thing going. So
Yeah.
driving like 10 miles an hour over the San Mateo Bridge. I was like, "Oh shit, I just want to get home." But yeah, but it was definitely a blessing, and it happened at the right place, right time when I got my new spot. And we've been there ever since. We just hit year 11 in May.
Wow.
So
Congratulations.
thank you so much. And it's just been a dream, That's all
Yeah.
I can say.
From going to a humble beginning, as you say, to growing it to over 100 students, what was the thing that you were doing to able to retain the students but also to grow that's a pretty rapid growth.
You know what's funny, man? Like in those days, social media was a buzz. It was a newer buzz, I guess you could say. We were like we were getting out of the MySpace era into the Facebook era.
Facebook.
And it was funny because like I didn't have money for shit. Like I was literally like, hey, I'm gonna take advantage of whatever resources I can to put my name out there. And it just started to go from there. Was literally like doing all my own branding and advertising and PR work on Facebook, and
Yeah.
I still do. And it's just minor, minimal stuff. I was doing a lot of guerrilla marketing. One of my students, he ended up being one of my black belts today. He works for a company and they print flyers. And he's like, Coach, I'll print you some flyers. Like, hell yeah. So, dude, I remember like getting a stack of flyers and walking around Sun Valley Mall and putting them on freaking windshields. I was walking around neighborhoods around the area that were around elementary schools and putting them on cars at their houses and putting them in mailboxes. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
all about that because I feel like, something tangible that someone go, oh, hey,
Yeah.
I was dropping them off at like coffee places and Jamba Juice and like, all the such, just because anywhere it's visible, people can pick it up and go, hey, I want to see what this is like or whatever. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 I'm getting calls, I'm getting emails and whatnot. And it just really just blew up from there. And it's funny because nothing much has changed. Like one of my black belts, he's the one who made our original our website, and it's still the same.
Yeah.
Not much has changed, and I get most of my foot traffic. And I always ask people, I'm like, "How'd you hear about us?" He's like, "Oh, I Googled, and you guys are the first name that pops up in town." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And it's always from the website.
Yeah.
So, to me, with this day and age, as far as like, TikTok and all these things, dude, I'm not even on TikTok. I don't even know.
Me
I
either.
wouldn't, right? It's just too much. But to know that like websites are still valuable, that's a good
Yeah.
resource to have, and I'm glad I still have mine. So yeah, it's a lot of word of mouth, to be honest. And
Yeah.
like I think I've been around the block enough to know like what I wanted and what I wanted to harvest around with and cultivate with my team. The rights, what's right, what's wrong, you kind of see and how you pick and choose. And my place, we always joke about it. It's like the biggest man cave around, and it's like a group of good friends, great vibe. We beat the piss out of each other. We're playing music and we like to train, and that's it. And I don't adhere much to a lot of old school stuff. Like, I think it's great when, people call me professor and all that kind of stuff. It's cool. But like to me, I feel like I'm always just the same guy in the room that just wants to train. But my students are so respectful. Like they're just the greatest people. Like majority of them, like they're all my friends. Like I literally
Yeah.
hang out with them. Like I do stuff with my students on off times.
Yeah.
So literally, I'm always trying to like, how can I better this product? Well, I don't want to do much. I'm not trying to, go overboard and lose out on what we got because it's working. I do my best though to refine my product, as far as like what my students can get. Like in the past couple of years, we like put in a shower, got new mats, and all the things.
Yeah.
And just because I feel like those are good investments, and the students love it, and they're just such a huge community that we've built. And it's gotten to the point where all these years, like we've done events. As a matter of fact, we have one coming up, but we've done like fundraisers for countless things, like everything from like AIDS and cancer victims and people victims of fires and natural disasters and you name it, dude. Like we've done so many outreach to whoever and whatever, and people that we don't even know, like when the whole Maui tragedy, God, we did a thing for that. When Australia was, having animals die and stuff, we did something for that. Like it was just,
Yeah.
I'm all about that. I think that's one of the best ways you can kind of give back. This is my platform. That's just how I see it. And this is what I do. So,
Yeah, I agree though. You have to be memorable, but you also have to use whatever you have, right? Whatever resources you have to impact the community a little bit more. And whether it be your local community or just the community as a whole.
yeah.
And it boils down to like, you're helping people on and off the mats,
Right.
not just in the training and getting better at jujitsu. That's a plus,
Yeah.
but being a little bit bigger than your four walls in your gym, right?
Yeah. It's crazy, man, because like in the early years of me opening the academy and whatnot, I was competing like a madman. I was doing like 20 tournaments a year and just all over the place, competing literally all over the country, all over the world. Like I've competed everywhere, like literally everywhere. And it was tough though in those early days because like I didn't have any black belts yet. So, and I'm trying to like go compete, go in Nogi Worlds, go in Pans or all this stuff. And I'm like, my students would have to cover class, and like, it was a tough give and take. But at the same time, I was like, all right, let's just get through this because we're building our brand, and this is what we need to do. And a lot of it goes back to right before I opened my academy. Good friend of mine, old workout partner, God rest his soul, he passed away some years back, but I remember he owned his own business too. And he asked me, he goes, Bright, you're about to open your academy. He's like, why would somebody want to come train at your place versus, let's say, the next person, whoever it might be? And he's like, now think about it. He's like, you got to distinguish yourself from the rest of the pack. What is it about you that makes you unique? And he's like, you're not being conceited. You're not, tooting your own horn or nothing, but you have to speak for yourself and, believe in that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
absolutely.
well, I'm kind of a hometown boy. I grew up around here, graduated De La Salle, graduated St. Mary's, um, world champ, Pan Am champ. He goes, well, there you go. He's like, you'll identify with these people from this area because you're one of them. Whereas a lot of these guys that come around, they're transplants. They come from
Yeah.
other places, and that's got to be a struggle to make a name for yourself, and you don't know nobody. Like,
Yeah.
thankfully for me, like when I right before I opened my academy, I was teaching in a bunch of different places, and the UFC gym in Concord was one of them.
Yeah.
And man, I was so lucky and blessed that when I left, about 30 students followed me.
Oh wow.
And it was so awesome because I'm like, man, thank God rent's going to be paid.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
not only
huge.
that, but like the VP for the UFC gym, I remember he called me. He's like, "Hey man, I just want to say congratulations. You are your own brand. That we could not contain you, And at that time, I was like, wow, I was blown away. Like this is the VP of the UFC gym telling me, "Hey, you got my blessing, bro. Have good luck."
Yeah.
And it's the nature of the beast, And that was really nice. That was really nice. And we're all still friends today. So
Yeah.
you got all these schools around, these places where you've been there and trained at, or you once were a teammate with, whatever. It's like I look around now, and that's what's funny. So many of the old school guys that I came up with, like we either broke away and started our own thing. Some are still around, at the old team, but we have our own teams now. We have our own
Yeah.
students, and it's like we're the old guys now. But it is a cool because a cool thing to see because I look back and I'm like, man, it's been such a great ride, and I wouldn't change it for nothing.
Yeah. You were talking about competition, and I want to know how your approach to competition was. I know you were out there trying to make a name for your brand and your academy and yourself, but what was your mindset going into competition? What was your training like?
Mhm.
And even how do you look at it today?
Yeah. Not much has changed. It's funny because I have always been one to use it in time increments as far as preparation. And that's how we were in wrestling teams. Like, hey, we're X amount of months out or X amount of weeks out. This is when trainings has to step up, and this is where camp starts. So it was always very scheduled. And so for me, Dude, I like right now, it's funny because we're 10 weeks out, 9.5 now from Nogi Worlds.
Yeah.
And I've already had the kind of like the meeting with my team. Hey, we're 10 weeks out, start to clean shit up and let's get working. And you better be in the gym. And not only that, but taking care of yourself outside. So I'm all about full preparation, like lifting, cardio, diet, hydration, recovery work, do all the things.
Yeah.
And I've done that pretty much my whole career. And so at the 5 week mark, though, that's when we really like step it up. So 5 weeks out from Nogi Worlds, and that's always been that way for me. We really go after it. Matter of fact, it's funny because you know that movement for what was it, men's prostate awareness, no shave November.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, at my academy we do Nogi November.
Okay.
And so
Get ready for
that's
Nogi Worlds.
yeah, but that's pretty much it. It's pretty much all of November is a camp for Nogi Worlds.
Yeah.
And so it's been our tradition for 11 years now, and it's been great. And the students know how to adapt, and it's great. And even the ones that don't compete. But as far as like my mindset, man, I stay laser focused. I'm one of those people that I'm such a creature of habit to where I do all the same things. I eat all the same things. It's all at the same time. And when I'm on that path, just get out of my way because I don't want any like anything to mess that up. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of mixing it up as far as my day. Like I teach my 6 a.m. class during the week, and if I'm prepping for a tournament, I'll train with them. Following that, I'll do my first workout like at the gym. I'll go to 24 and I'll go lift and I'll do some cardio there. And a lot of my lifting, it's not like to PR or anything. It's just keeping my joints and tendons strong and getting some blood in the system and just feeling good, and feeling strong for what we do. It's largely bodybuilding based. I've done CrossFit in my life, but it was like, all right, I don't need that level of explosion. That doesn't work for me, and it doesn't. Although it's functional training, it wasn't functional for what I do.
Yeah.
But I've adapted and done a lot of things, a lot of different things. I run, like I've done half marathon and 5Ks, 10Ks. Like you look at me, you're like, well, you run, bro? Like, yeah, actually, not fast, but but yeah, that's a huge part of my prep too. And then I train with my noon class, which is normally a lot of my competitors. They come there. We always get visitors from other teams come and train, black belts and whatnot. There's always somebody every single week at my noon class, and it's been coined the Noon Goons just because literally we got some freaking knuckle dragging goons in that class that just some beasts. But it's nice because I've got to the point now where I can literally rely on my team to get good training for a specific tournament, like at a high level. Back in the day when I first started the academy, I would have to go cross train in certain
Right.
places, just because I needed a different push. I'm like,
Yeah.
I got white
Different
belts and
look.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got white belts and blue belts. That ain't gonna work, bro.
Yeah.
But they've really stepped it up. And man, I got some hunters, I got some killers on my team, and like they're just perfect for whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
So but again, that noon training is the last hard training of the day. I'll do another quick little workout immediately after. Normally it's a little run or something. So that's my day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Weekends, I try to do like a recovery workout and get some recovery work done. Like I go to Cairo, I get deep tissue massage, that type of stuff, sauna, steam rooms, those type of things. Like I do a lot of that too. So I'm a big believer in doing a lot of those extra little things to help you get by.
Yeah, that's going to make the difference. The recovery aspect, jujitsu is not an easy sport.
Yeah.
It's hard on the body. As you age in jujitsu, it doesn't get easier on the body, but
Right.
it's more of you got to taper your training to the right times and make sure that you're avoiding injury. And
Mhm.
one of the best ways you can do that is recovery. Taking
Mhm.
care of the body, making sure you're listening and getting the proper rest and all
Right.
of the different things that you got to do to be a real competitor out there and do those
Absolutely.
extra things.
It's wild. I tell my guys all the time, like, this day and age, especially even at the youngest levels, you got yellow belts like training like world class
Oh
athletes.
yeah. Yeah,
Like
without a doubt.
yeah, and it's funny because I look back and like Rotolo brothers. I've known those boys since they were little.
Yeah.
And I remember back, and meeting their dad and like, oh God, this is the future right here. And like just hearing about their training and seeing them evolve. I'm like, there you go. There's a perfect example of what it is like now. It's and you know, I always say like you can't rely just on jujitsu anymore. You know,
Yeah.
like back in the day, oh, just train jujitsu, it'll get you stronger. Sure, but you need to supplement your body with some other workouts to help that even more. So like, why not be that full, well-rounded like athlete? I guess you could say. So
Yeah. Well, you've been training long enough, right? And you know what it's like. They used to tell us you didn't need to be the big strong guy in jujitsu, right? Your technique, everything's in your technique.
nah, man.
But now there's some big strong guys in jujitsu that
Really
have
good in
great good
technique.
technique.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
but they also have those attributes,
yeah.
and muscles and steroids and everything to go along with it. So,
You know,
um,
it's funny. I have this joke, and I never forget this because I don't want to say his name. I love him to death. He's a good dude. He's like one of the like Hall of Fame legendary black belts around here. He used to give me crap all the time in training. He's like, "Brian, you're so big and strong." I go, "Oh man, you know how much technique it took me to get big and strong, bro?" And he's like, "Oh," he shakes his head, "Oh."
yeah, no,
Anyway,
you always see it, man, and but especially nowadays, the strength factor is something you have to really consider.
sure,
And if you're not doing strength and conditioning, you're just relying on your jujitsu technique.
sure.
Eventually, it's
Yeah.
gonna it's gonna not go in your way. So
You know, it's funny, like in training, you know, I always tell my guys, I'm terrible in my first or second roll. Third, fourth, fifth, I'm money. I'm good. When I'm not as explosive, I'm not as fast, but I'm completely warm, you
yeah,
know? And I really got to rely on my jujitsu by then. But even still, my conditioning will help be that contributing factor to know that I can stay and do those long rounds. And like, you know, I look at my career and I've been in through some long like super fights in my career. And it's like, man, like I think my longest one was like a 25 to 30 minute super fight straight.
wow,
And, you know, I wouldn't have been able to done that if I wasn't in shape, you
yeah.
know. So I definitely attribute my own strength and conditioning to that.
Yeah, you have to factor it in nowadays. You can't just look at it with an old school mentality and
Yeah,
and
for
and not
sure.
factor it in. But
Right.
it makes the difference, and we're seeing these younger competitors get in the scene, and they're big, strong guys. I'm not seeing guys that aren't strong out there
Right.
anymore.
No, like the level of athlete has definitely elevated to a whole top tier, and it's like if you're not doing the extra little things, you're left far behind.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. I actually got to talk to a good friend of mine, Big Nima, a
Hmm.
couple weeks ago on the podcast, and he's got a
One of my
strength and
guys.
conditioning coach where he's
Mhm.
working with
Yep.
because of that factor that you said. Wanting to
Mhm.
do the little things to improve, and
Yeah.
and he had a great performance for being such a big guy, man. Like being able
And
to kind of keep it together and not gas out in the first 10 seconds. That's hard, hard
not
in
only just
heavyweights.
being a big guy that with all that power and strength, but being a newer guy. Like Nima's still green and wet behind the ears. I tell him all the time, like, man, you haven't even scratched the surface, boy. But I
Yeah.
love him to death. He's such a good hard worker, great student, so respectful, very receptive, takes criticism and wants to learn, like really wants to learn, and doesn't want to be just big and strong. He wants to play guard. He wants to know all the things, and that's what I
Yeah.
love. If you're coachable like that, you get all my time and efforts, man. And like he's fully like accepted the role.
Yeah. No, that's what it is being coachable, right?
Mhm.
You need students like that. They make class go much easier. They make your job go much
Totally.
easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it establishes a great environment in the gym. People see that he's willing
Yeah.
to put in the hard work
Hmm.
and all of that. And it starts carrying on to the other people.
Absolutely. And you know, it's funny. A couple of my other students that are his training partners, they're blue belts, and like they get pummeled. You know,
Yeah.
it's inevitable. Like he gets them, but I've worked with them also on the private lesson level. And you know, one of the key things they've always asked me is, "Coach, how do we beat Nemo? Or how do we contain him? How do we deal with him?" And all of a sudden, they're figuring him out. You know, I'm teaching them how to do certain things, and it's funny because I didn't get good at like dealing with bigger guys like that until I was doing absolutes all the time.
Yeah.
Like I my God, like dude, if you look at all my world's podiums, I'm always the shortest dude, whether it be weight class or absolutes. And I've literally I've medaled and podiumed at the heavyweight level, supers and ultras.
Yeah.
And so, my success in dealing with big guys, it's always been good. And so when Nima came on, I was like, this is the kind of guy I'm used to fighting,
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I think it's a skill. Like you got to learn how to deal with that. And man, I've come across guys before where they were bigger guys, but they didn't have big guys in their team,
Yeah.
right? So when they'd come and train with me, I'm like, oh wow, he doesn't know what it's like to roll with big guys. Like you can tell certain people how they roll because of who they have in the room.
Right.
And when you have monsters and dinosaurs in your room, it makes for different, hard, difficult training for sure. But I like it. I like that type of exchange. And I always tell my smaller guys, I'm like, you got to know what that feels like.
Yeah.
You can't be choosy all the time. And I always tell my students, like, look, we may seem like we're training for sport here, right? And this is like a big gripe I have with this day and age. I was never taught like this is self-defense jujitsu. This is sport jujitsu. No, I was
Yeah.
taught jujitsu,
Yeah. It
right?
was all for self-defense at
Right,
that point. Yeah.
absolutely. And like all the stuff I've been through on patrol, man, fighting guys, they're trying to take my gun, I'm trying to get their gun off and like all that shit. I didn't learn from a specific class. So, a lot of these guys that are out there branding their jujitsu for a certain thing, I'm just not a big buyer on it because I just feel like you can take any person that has a good amount of skills, whether it be wrestling, jujitsu, especially those two, you get into some sort of altercation, especially close quarters, and you don't have those skills, you're going to be on the receiving end of something bad.
Oh yeah.
I just that's how it's always worked for me. Like, and that was it, especially back in patrol. Like,
Yeah.
you want to try and not throw punches and just take somebody to the ground, disarm them, put them in handcuffs, and go home safely. And
Yeah.
like I said, like this day and age, jujitsu to me is just jujitsu. Like I don't have a style, I don't have a way. I love all the things about how jujitsu is. I'm a big believer in the old school smash style. I love that way. But I love inverting. I love barambolos. I love footlocks, leg exchanges, all that kind of stuff. To me,
Yeah.
if you're not growing, especially like within the art itself and seeing all the styles and the things coming around, sure they're recycled and they're
Yeah.
just coming around in different ways at different names, but you got to know about it.
Oh yeah,
and, and
absolutely.
and I always told my guys, like, if you guys ever got hit by something and you didn't know what the technique was, that's my fault. you
Yeah.
know I want to always make sure that they're well rounded. So at my place, we're all about top, bottom, standing, takedowns, guard pulls, whatever. We do it all.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in just gi or just no gi. I'm like, do it all.
Yeah. You have to know it all. You have to train
Hmm.
in it all to be really proficient.
Hmm.
There's so many guys. The old school thing was, right. If you train gi jujitsu, it makes your no gi better back in the day. And I mean, I don't know if it was true or not, but
Right.
there was a lot of things like that being said back then. But
Yeah.
like you said, jujitsu's jujitsu. I can't help but believe, like, regardless what color your belt is, how many competitions you have, if
Hmm.
there's ever a real life situation that you have to use it, and God forbid, right? But
Yeah.
you need to be proficient at it.
Yeah.
So, you can't train it enough. Let me ask you, Professor Bryant, if you could give yourself one piece of advice, looking back now, give your white belt self one piece of advice, what do you think it would be?
Ooh, that's tough because to me it was at that time I was entering a different phase in my life where I'm like, man, if I jump all in, and that's the type of person I am, like it's all in or nothing.
Yeah.
If I jump all in, I'm gonna be pretty good. And that's what I did. But if I were to give my white belt self advice, it would be take your time a little bit more. Take your
Yeah.
time a little bit more and listen to your body a little bit more. And I still have injuries from those white belt days.
Yeah.
But again, still thinking about all of that, like I still wouldn't change it for nothing, but definitely give myself a little bit more grace then. I just felt like we were in a different time. And knowing jujitsu again for me was learning how to stay alive. But the training sessions were just grueling. Not to say I don't train hard now, but man, it was just different.
Yeah.
I like to think as much as that was a golden era, that was a dark time.
It was like gang warfare too, you
Yeah.
know.
Man,
Yeah.
I'll never forget one time Nick was getting ready for a fight, and Cesar Gracie was like, "Okay, go take him down." I was like, "All right, cool." So I hop in the ring, ding ding, and I get in there and doom 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 doom. Uh, I looked over, I was like, "Oh, we're punching." He's, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Fuck." So immediately I took him down with a double. I was like, I'm just gonna hide my face for like 5 minutes, and oh man, but you know what? I loved it. I loved every
Yeah.
part of that. And I still see Nathan every once in a while at tournaments and little things, and we top it up. Gilbert too.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was doing a seminar in Connecticut years ago, and the my buddy Rich McKeegan, he got us a tour of the ESPN campus.
Oh wow.
And so it was so fun, it was just so cool and to go do that. And as we're walking around, I hear a "Hey, Bry," and I look around, it was Gilbert Melendez. I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
And we just started chopping it up. He's like, "Man, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing a seminar." He's like, "In Connecticut?" He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do the MMA, show
Y-
here." I was like, "Oh shit." And he just looked at me. He's like, "Man, we come a long way,"
Yeah.
like pretty
No, it's
cool though,
crazy. Yeah.
so
It's great to see, like, I mean, I've always been a big fan of this, and to see guys like Nathan Diaz getting the recognition, Jake Shields, and seeing not only their great fighting career, but seeing what Jake's doing after
mhm,
fighting and having
absolutely.
great success. It's
Yeah.
it's it's really awesome.
Mhm.
This area I've always felt like is a huge hotbed. We're
Oh,
talking the
totally.
NorCal, all of
Totally.
California, but
Hmm.
our NorCal Bay Area market is just, I mean, some of the best jujitsu in the world, and
Absolutely.
it's only gotten better over the years.
That's, and I think it's only going to get even better. And that's what's wild. It's like, I remember years ago going to Long Beach to compete at Worlds, all those years, like there's literally like a gym on every, off the 405, off of every exit.
Yep, yep,
And it's starting to get that way around here. I'm like, oh shit, this is jiu-jitsu. There's jiu-jitsu. Like it's everywhere. But I think it's great. I think it's
yeah,
great. I think we have enough people around here for everybody, so everybody can join a team and get in somewhere. And why not? And why not mix that pot up a little bit more? Because Jesus, when I first started, it was Cesar Gracie, and then the next gym over was Half in the city.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like there was nothing in between, and now there's every town's got something.
Yeah. No, it's great. If you've been a big fan, or if you started in the old school, you got to be loving what you're seeing nowadays in jujitsu, and the amazing growth, and you mentioned it. I've had tons of people mention it, but the kids, how great they're getting, and the competition out there, man. You see blue belts going into competitions, and you're just blown away that they're a blue belt.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah. The level has changed so much.
yes,
And I
truly
and I love I
has.
love to see it, and and that's one thing I love to go, like going to tournaments and going to these showcase events, is you see what guys are doing, you see what teams are doing, and what's working, what's not, who's far behind, and what are we, where I want to take me and my guys.
Yeah.
So I'm a big study nerd. I love to do that. I love to study film and actually see, going to, like I said, to tournaments and see stuff for myself and go, all right, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So
Very true. Professor Bryant, in wrapping this thing up, I just want to say again, thank you for being a part of this. I've been following you for quite some time. I
thank
have
you,
some
man.
friends over at Sabre, so you've been on my radar for a while, but I'm glad you've taken the time to just kind of share your story and journey through jujitsu. We love it so much, man. And, one day we're not going to be around to tell these stories. So,
Yeah,
we need to keep the history around. We need to keep the lineage going, the legacy of the early days,
absolutely.
before it goes away. So,
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
what,
dude, it's been such a pleasure, and you know what, dude, like, thank you for having me. Like, I love doing these things. It's great meeting new folks and getting out there and doing all these little things to, spread the word. And
yeah.
you're always welcome at my place anytime.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And just in wrapping this up, I just want to say thank you for being a part of this. I always like to give our guests just a couple minutes for any shout outs, anything
Yeah.
like that. But also, if people want to go to Sabre Jiu Jitsu, or if they're in the area, how do they get a hold of you, or how do they come try out a class?
We're online, sabrebjj.com, sabrebjj.com. Email and phone numbers on there. Hit us up anytime. First class is free. You can always come by. We have classes Monday through Saturday. So we're open 7 days a week because on Sundays we have open mat. But we have just under 40 classes a week.
Wow.
So our schedule is pretty packed. I'm there all the time. Either if I'm teaching a class or doing a private, I'm there like a lot.
Yeah.
But and like I said, I'm not into the BS politics. You're in from another team. Come on in, and let's train together. I'm all about that. And we get people from all over the world literally coming to train at our place, and I love it.
Yeah. It's amazing, man. So many people can connect on just jujitsu alone. It
Yep,
brings a lot of people together, and it harvests a lot of relationships and friendships. So
absolutely.
keep doing what you're doing, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Just want to say thank you again. Everyone, thank you for downloading the podcast. You can check us out each and every week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere where you get your podcast. We appreciate all the love and support from our partners over at Spar Bar Soap and Butterfly X. Thank you guys for everything that you do for the show. Again, go check out Sabre Jiu-Jitsu Professor Bryant. He's an amazing guy.
Thank you.
Thank you again for being a part of this. This is Grapplers Talk and Dave, and we are out.
Later.